This is the one and only TQuest. You are tuned into the TQuest show, relatable, informative, yet entertaining. You guys know I love you guys, right? Of course I do, but who do I love the most every week? My listeners. Without you guys, I would be no one. So special shout out to the ones who always listen to my radio shows and my podcast, but also special shout out to the new listeners. Why? Because that means someone was smart enough to tell you about my show, or I was being a great promoter and putting it out there so you guys can come and follow me, right? Yeah, because the show was lit, but there's no point in having a lit show if I don't have any listeners. So I always got to pay homage to you guys. And you guys know I like to take advantage of my platform before and after my show. So if you haven't already, shame on you. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at TQuestGLM and download the TQuest mobile app in your Google Play Store and your App Store for free. Can't get no better than that. You say you love me, that's your way to prove it. Now that I've taken advantage of my own platform, sharing is caring, it's time for me to share it with my special guest today. Today we do something a little different. I actually have a co-host because we have an extra special guest. And I told you guys I like to pay homage to different entrepreneurs, and different business people, not just music artists and DJs, because that's the realm or the industry that I'm in, but for other people, such as, a couple of weeks ago, I did a special on celebrity chefs, and celebrity music artists. But what about the other professions? What about the other people a part of the entertainment and media society? What about the authors? So now it's time to pay homage to the authors, right? And my question to you, how many of you guys actually still read? And how many of you guys actually still go to the library? But we're going to get into that for the show. And before we introduce our special guest, let me introduce you to my co-host for the day, the owner of Whitney's Escapes, LLC, Ms. Whitney Lee.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here today, Claire.
I know you are. Oh my gosh. I know you are so excited to be here today. Because for the ones who don't know, every time we talk, I'm like, what are you doing? Reading. What are you doing all the time? Reading. I'm like, what are you reading? Oh, I'm reading this and that. And I'm like, it's so refreshing because a lot of people don't really read like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading, of course, when it wasn't forced, like in school, but after school, reading different books, like Zane books and Terry McMillan. And I used to remember just sitting home, just relaxing curled up with a book, some tea, some water, and just vibing. But as we got older, life became so hectic that I didn't have time to do things that used to make me happy.
Yeah.
And now it's time to bring back the things that make me happy. And I'm like, what makes me happy outside of the entertainment world and teddy bears and edible arrangements? Reading.
Yes.
It makes me happy. And I'm just not talking about reading blogs, even though I'm a writer and a blogger, but reading stories outside of Facebook and scrolling on Instagram. Like, no, reading real books.
Yes.
Going to the library, checking out a book, remembering to bring it back so you don't have to get that fee. The good old days. I used to pay a lot of fees, but please don't judge me on that. But yes, I'm so excited to bring in our special guest today, and she wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So before we bring her on, tell the people who you are and what you do, and tell them why I call you the Black Belt.
Well, for those who don't know me, I am Whitney, owner of Whitney Escapes, LLC, #1 travel agency in the world. So when you're ready to take flight again, please contact me. And the reason my sister calls me the Black Belt is because, like she said, I love to read. And the funny story is, I didn't always like reading. Mm-hmm. It was actually a few years ago where my husband challenged me to like a reading challenge. I don't want to read. He's like, come on. I was like, knowing I'm competitive, I took on the challenge and took it and ran. And it just became something I love to do. And I appreciate that challenge because being a busy person, having your own business, being a wife, a mom, you don't get to always do stuff you want to do to relax. And I used to say watching TV, a good Hallmark movie was my relaxation. But when you have kids and stuff, and I have small children, you don't get to do that. But with a book, I can pause and go right back to where I am and finish and doesn't feel like I missed anything. Mm-hmm. And I am so excited today because this young lady, I was just introduced to her recently from another author, which I really appreciate that these authors don't mind referring each other. That means you support other Black women who are authors.
Absolutely.
And she just referred me to her this month. Mm-hmm. and I already read like 10 of her books. I have no clue how did I do that when I only read during the weekends. So that should tell people and show people how her books just draw you in. And I am so excited to talk to her today because I do have questions, of course. I have my healthy notes. I've been writing all day. So I have to talk for questions. I don't forget anything. But I appreciate her because definitely during this time of COVID, we need an escape. And you know, with Whitney's escapes, who always trying to escape, and my staycation escape is reading. And she has blessed me through her stories to just get my escape, get my sexy back, you know, because she talks about, it's like the Black Hallmark in a book, you know, but it can't be on the Hallmark channel, you know what I'm saying? But it is so good, it's so juicy, it's so relatable, and I'm just so excited to bring her on here so we could co-host together and, you know, show your viewers, and I share this also and my friends, you know, this wonderful woman and her art, because it is an art and it's a gift that she has. So I'm excited. I don't know if you guys are, but if you can't tell, I am excited. Okay.
Absolutely. And I think this is the perfect time to bring on the guest. You want to introduce her?
Yes, I would love to introduce our guest today. So today we will be interviewing the one and only Alexandra Warren, who's an author and a blogger. So please follow her. But we're bringing her on today to talk about her wonderful book collection. Oh, there she goes.
Hi.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How are you?
I am wonderful. That was such a warm introduction. I'm like, is she really talking about me? Are you sure? But I love it. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Absolutely. So I like to interview guests as if, well, I've never met them or know anything about them, right? Which means they should know enough about themselves and their business and their product to sell it to a perfect stranger, right?
Okay.
So let's start off by, once again, you telling the people who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
All right. I am Alexandra Warren. I am a romance author. I specialize in Black millennial love stories that are fresh, flirty, and fun. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, but I currently live in Houston, Texas. And I've been writing full time for about 5 years now, and I love it. And I don't see myself doing anything else because it's just so fun to be able to tell stories.
Now, say it again, exactly the type of stories that you write, and say it slowly.
So I write fresh, flirty, and fun Black millennial romance.
Now that's interesting because I remember a while ago someone told me that they was going to write Tyler Perry and saying that he should make movies like that for the Black culture.
Yes.
I would love to see it. I would love to go down to his wonderful studios and pitch my work. He has everything that I need. If he wants to collab, I'm down. That would be beautiful. I would love to see that.
I will too. Bring your stories, like you and, you know, Alexandra House, who referred me to you. I said the same thing, that your stuff should be on TV because that's something that we're missing. We're missing Black love, real Black love. You know, we have a show that's on for 5 seconds. If it ain't ratchet, they pull us off the TV. Like, we don't have love. You know, even like in my own household, they'd be like, oh, you being married, kids, and your husband's Black. That's not norm. I said, well, it should be. We do have people who are married to who happen to be African American, who still have a real strong love and connection. We are not normal. You know what I'm saying? And I said some of the problem is that we don't show it. It's not on TV. It's not being displayed. And your work and your wordplay is beautiful. You don't make us seem like we're ratchet. You don't make it sound poor. You talk about different levels financially and different places they are in their life where everybody can relate to. And that's, I think, is what's wrong with the world today. What's going on with Black Lives Matter. You know, like our other sister, she wrote a beautiful quote on Facebook when she said, when everybody says save the whales, they never said, what about the dolphins? No one ever says stuff like that. You know? So it's like when we talk about a human being and we saying we matter, which is something so minute, you would think, yes, you do matter. But another problem is you don't display us positively on television. It has to be a comedy.
They do. The ratings are low because people are so brainwashed that I don't want to see black people unless they're fighting and arguing and fussing. You know, remember the show they had? What was the show? It was a show with Tracy Ellis Ross and Malcolm Jamal Warner. It was like a lovely black couple.
Oh yeah,
remember that? Yeah, the ratings was that show because nobody wanted to see that. They wanted to see ratchetness.
I did.
That because in their mind, if it's a black happy couple, then why would we want to see that? That's not going to entertain me. It's cheesy to them. It's cheesy to them. I'm like, how is that cheesy?
Right. We see it a million ways with everybody else, but we don't get to see it for Black people. And so that's why I love being able to write the stories that I do, because Black love is real and Black romance is real. And I'm not going to run away from that. Like, that's what I was raised in. That's what I live my life as. So why would I ever run away from that when I'm creating art?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I love to bring it back, right? Bring it all the way back. Now you say you were a full-time writer for the last 5 years, but what made you actually pick up the pen, pencil, crayon, or marker?
So it's it's a funny story. It is, well, I guess it kind of started with crayons. I mean, I feel like I always enjoyed writing, but I never envisioned myself being a writer. I was actually a preschool teacher. And so after I graduated from college, I got back into reading because, when you're in college, you're only reading for your studies. But after you're done with school, it's like, okay, I have a little bit more free time. I can read for enjoyment. So I always love romance novels. And so I started reading more and more. And I'm like, I should try my hand at this. And so I had a friend who she was pretty new to the self-publishing world, and I had just sent her a little bit of what I wrote, and she was like, you need to finish this, you need to publish this. And so I always say that she pushed me off the ledge to publish my first thing. And after that, it was like, you find readers and people really connect with your work, and it's like, how can you stop now?
Please don't stop. Please don't stop.
Okay, so you wrote a piece, your self-publishing friend enjoyed it, and you put out your first book, but what was going through your mind while you were writing? Because myself, I'm a writer too. And I write based off the story that's playing in my head, so what is your process?
So I'm very much the same way. I always say, these stories are playing in my head like a movie, and I'm just transcribing what's playing in my head. And so with that first book that I put out, it was called Attractions and Distractions, and it was based in college. And so I was fresh out of college. And so I felt like I knew the ins and outs of, that experience, and being able to bring that into make it a novel and make it a series. It was like a no-brainer because it was something that was so fresh in my head. After just being graduated recently.
Okay. Now, how did you feel the moment you finished it right before you had to do the editing?
Oh, I was like, is this real? Like, did I really do this? And am I really planning on putting this out? Like, because there's the nerves that people are going to like it. What are people going to think about this? What is my family going to think about this? Like, I was still working at the time as a teacher. And so it was like my parents that the kids that I teach, are they going to see this? And just all these different worries. But at the end of the day, it was like, this is something I want to do for fun at the time. Like, it was just something that's a hobby. And so I just need to release some of that pressure on myself and just try it. Why not?
Okay. So what was the name of the first book again?
It was called Attractions and Distractions freshman year. And so it was a series that went from freshman year to senior year. Okay.
And how many books you have out now?
I have 33 books out.
Woo! Okay. Yeah. All right. So this series, Winnie, did you read this series?
I haven't read Attraction and Distractions yet. I'm actually writing that down because I went in the order on her site that she had. So I started reading them as the order that they were in because I didn't want to make sure if she brought another character, I didn't miss something. That happened to me when I started reading Alexandra House. Like, someone told me about one of her books, and then I said something. I'm like, I know this character. And then I'm like, wait, hold up. So then I found her, and I was like, I hope she replies back to me. How should I? She's like, oh, you should read it. And I'm like, this is why, because she was talking about the person in another book, and I was like, so that's why when I messaged you, I'm so happy that you got back to me. I was like, I didn't want to be like, not reading it in the proper order.
Yeah, because there's authors we call them Easter eggs, where we like mention a character from another book, or just like, so if you read them in order, then you're like, oh, I remember them, and you pick up on it. But if you're new to the work, then it's like, okay, who are they? And then you end up going back, and so it works both ways.
Absolutely. So let's segue and have a little fun. Whitney, I want you to pick the first book that you read of hers, and it's time for you to ask her some questions.
Well, that's so easy for me because I already have them written down. But I would like to start off with the first book, but the one question that I wanted to ask you for the longest, now that I knew we were doing this. In your 5-book series that you write about The Tale of Two Cities, we talk about Halloween, Christmas, all those like there. And my question is for you, which I love them. I really loved how you brought back the Max and Kevin, from your other book. But I really loved Orlando. I loved him. Like his character was really, really good with him in the super. Like I loved that how you brought them back into that series. I'm like, it threw me, but I really like. But I want to know in that ending of those 5 books, why it wasn't there an epilogue at the end? Like so, all at the end, but they they did like a peekaboo real quick. But that's it. Like, oh, he went to the airport to see his girlfriend. But what else happened between them?
And so with that series, it was all about the meet cute, right? So how do these two people from totally different worlds come together around this holiday and meet each other and, kick things off? And so it's just like the beginning spark of each relationship. And so that's why there's not a long epilogue, because it's like, if you just met somebody a month ago, are you really going to have the baby and the marriage and all that stuff? I mean, some people, that's their thing. That's fine. That works for them. But for these couples, it was more about the meet cute and then just having that first spark of a relationship and just kicking things off on a good note.
I totally get that. That goes to my next question. Are you going to do a part 2 of the 2 series to see, like, where are they now?
So, I don't have any plans for it, but I also never say never, because sometimes these characters just like to pop back up and I don't get to control. I don't get to control the stories that I'm telling sometimes. Sometimes they have all the control and they tell me what to do. And so if they were to pop back up, I would love to, because I also just very much enjoy every single character of that series.
Yes, like that one, I was like, why did she have epilogue? Like I love, but like you said before, it was definitely how they first met. Like you really focus on that in the story. But I'm like, okay, he said he's love you, they said they're together, now what? Like you ended up, and I was reading the other books like, oh, he was on a cliffhanger, and you do like a peekaboo, like, oh, they still together, but that's all you're gonna find out is that they still together.
Yeah, anytime I end a story, like, just know that everybody is living happily ever after. That's what I tell people, because I know it's so easy to get connected to these characters after you spending these, however many hours you spent reading. It's like, who, like, they start to feel like real people. So you want to know, like, what's going on with them? Like, are they doing okay? And all these types of things. But just know they're always living happily in my head.
Okay, I'm glad that you said that in your mind you're thinking of them as real people, right? Which was actually the best segue to the question I wanted to ask both of you. In this book, how many main characters are there?
There's a series, but there are always 2 main characters in her books.
All right, so in this, the first one that you were speaking about, who's the 2 main characters?
There will be 10 of them because it's a 5-book series. But the first story in that book, I wrote it down.
It was Halloween, was Savannah and Lincoln. Is that correct?
Yeah, because Savannah has the daughter.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, these 2 characters, if it was to be played out in a movie, a TV show, who you feel should play those characters?
So it's so funny that you asked that, because those 2, for some, I'll use like character inspirations, but they're usually just like random people. But those 2 I actually had celebrities, and Savannah was Kelly Rowland.
Because he talks about that. She looks like Kelly Rowland in the book.
Yeah, And so Savannah would be Kelly Rowland, and then Lincoln, he has more of a stockier build. And I think I used like Reggie Bush or somebody who was a football player.
Oh. Can you see that now that you
yeah.
thinking about it? Wait, can you see that?
Well, I thought Kelly Rowland because she said in the book that it's like, oh, when he was before he met her, they said how we describe her. Oh, she's like a Kelly Rowland. So
Yeah, yeah.
I already had that image in my head, and then she had the all play with Beyonce for the Halloween when they got dressed up. So it kind of makes sense that happened. She's tall, slinky, you know. She was a track star, so she definitely had that figure. I could definitely see that.
Okay, all right. So let's keep it going.
Next other book. Let's get it. The first book I read is Shots Not Taken.
Okay, so that was the series. So Shots Not Taken is by Nicole Falls, and so we collaborated on the series. And I did One Last Shot, and so that was a.
That's why that one pops up first, but you're supposed to read the one first. I could have trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you can read them in any order, and that's the beauty of doing a collaboration like that, where it's not about like trying to connect them completely, but two different stories that just connect in little ways throughout. But yeah, so that's actually, it's funny that you say that because that's actually what I'm working on right now is the next edition of that series.
That's great because I have questions for both of those books. But I'm gonna go with One Last Shot. Let me tell you what I really liked about that book. I liked about the book that their personalities, how they both were athletes, and how he was on top of his game, and then something tragic happened, and people assumed, which they like to always do with people, assume, oh, he must have been all this and that, not knowing he was really brokenhearted, that had his scholarship and he didn't have no other where to go. And she always was in love with him. So that kind of like make her want to see a little bit past him. I just really love like their dynamic of coming together and watching both of them grow. Like she had her own stigma, like no, she like roll him off, you know, because he disappointed her, but she didn't even know him. And that's what we do. We know people and they're like our idols or some type of way. You're like, their life happens. You don't know their story. They don't want to share it, but you already have your prejudgment. And here he comes, all this baggage, but he was still humble enough to be like, you know, let me express who I am and how like a full circle come around. It was just a beautiful love story. But I loved how like one thing I love about all your books, the characters really grow and find themselves, you know, they all struggle with something, but they express it. Then the other person figure it out and like, I was stupid. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I be saying to myself, like, why do you have to know all the details to realize you were stupid? Like,
you know,
it's your life.
And that's the thing about it. It's so funny writing it because even as I'm writing it, sometimes it's like, oh, you are like, why are you handling this way? Like this could just be so simple. Y'all could solve this so easily, but y'all are taking the longest route to the solution. But I have to follow what they tell me. And like you said, it's real life. And so
yes, yeah, I love that story about them and how, you know, no matter, even though he was on top, he came down, he still worked, you know, it just takes that one person and then you use almost that same type of character, but flip it in your other book with, I wrote it down, which one it is, with Jules and Levy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I wrote
down arrangements.
I just remember because Levy is still like, he's a superstar, but different. How he fell off and had to work like he had an injury, but people always like assume stuff. Like I love how you took those characters and put them together, and you talk. You know, Jules working at the Max, he brought them back into it, which I really love because I love that storyline between the brothers, Mitchell brothers. I love like what's their last name?
Watson, the Watson brothers.
I'm like Kevin and Maxwell. I was like, wait, is this Maxwell? The name of the lounge of Max and how they introduced like, but I love how you took like similar situation, but you totally flipped it like with Levy and Jules. Like that was really, 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 really dope. Let me see my question I have for that. What was I was going? Oh, I want to know all your stories. Like now I found out that you're doing the one shot. You say you're doing another book to that.
The Nymph and Trojan series.
So what it brings like the characters into that one. So it'll be like book number 3.
So it'll be 2 characters that were featured in One Last Shot. It'll be about them. And so we'll see glimpses of Selena and Dre in that book, but it'll be focused on 2 new characters.
Like how their life grew, because how it ended with her expecting, like, well, we know what. I was like, what is it? Like, what is? Like, I was so curious. I hope you talk about. That's my hint to say, hey, put that in the story if you don't.
We will find out what Selena is having, and Dre's transition into the NBA, and there was a lot of little things that are happening in the next phase. They'll just be told through the lens of other people.
You keep us, like I say, you keep me like, oh, what's gonna happen next? That was really, really good. You have a question, hon?
Oh, you know me. I stay with questions, but you just seem so excited, and it's beautiful in a dialect. So, my question for Alexandra is: I was curious because as a reader and a consumer, when I used to go to bookstores, I would base everything off of the synopsis on the back of the book, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to tell me if I'm going to buy this book or not. I remember one lady, she wrote this book. It was like, it was a gangster named Marvin. And I was like, what? And I was just so turned off because I couldn't picture no gangster named Marvin.
Right? You gotta have a nickname or something, right?
I was like, I don't want this book. So then I just got something else. So I'm curious to how you come up with the characters' names in your books.
So that's so funny that you asked that, because it's the silliest thing to talk about. But me and a lot of my author friends, actually, we use like babynames.com. And so usually I'll have like a letter in my head of, just a letter. I'll just pick a letter and I'll just like scrolling through, and it's like, I know who this person is, but what name actually fits the character that's developing in my head. And so I'll just be like scrolling through lists, and whichever one like stands out to me is chosen.
Okay.
That's so interesting, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like what parents do. They either name their children from themselves, like a remix to their name, or they just, oh, that's so pretty. And some of them actually do go to like babynames.com to write names. So it's kind of interesting that you do that, because I always wondered how they do that. It's a good thing to know.
Yeah, but it's the other thing, like you said, like you'll hear a name and you're like, oh, that's so pretty, or like you'll see a name on TV, you're like, oh, I love that name, and so I'll just jot it down in my notes and just save it for when I have a character that fits that name.
Absolutely. Well, back to you, co-host, because you got
to have another one.
I love it. I can talk about my all day.
I love these books, are so good. We'll go to the book called The Games People Play with London and Chance.
Yes.
Oh my God. Listen. They are, wait, can y'all see me?
Yes.
I don't see it because my computer, the MacBook is always connected to my phone, and it kept on like, I'm like, what happened? Sorry, guys. So, okay. They are hilarious to me. Even their characters in here, like MJ, he was so funny to me. Like when he was on his shoulders, like, tonight, like, they were just too funny. Her mom was hilarious. But how did you come up with them? Like, that's gonna be real life too. Like how they're like secret lovers, and because London was her brother's best friend, and he moved out of town, come back. Like that whole thing was so like great. But I was like, look, why don't you just tell your brother? Like, stop doing this.
And so that's one of those things, like I was talking about earlier. It's like, this is just so, like, why can't y'all just handle this so easily and not have to go through all of this and trying to be sneaking around? Like, why do you have to do this? But that's the story. That's the story that they gave me, and I try my hardest not to fight them about it, because otherwise they won't give me the words that I need. And so I follow along with them. But London and Chance were so much fun. I knew that I wanted to do the brother's best friend with the little sister. I knew I wanted to do that trope. but I wanted to spice it up a little bit. That was like the goal for this project, was to just do something a little more spicy than what I had been doing previously. And so I took it there, and I had a lot of fun. Like you said, all the side characters, like they were super fun, and the moms and the auntie gang in their pajama ones.
They're so funny. Like everybody.
Yeah, it was. I love writing that book. It was so much fun.
And then you went to the next book after that one, The Games We Play. And I'm so happy because I knew there's 2 books. When I was reading the first one and what's his name? Khaled.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if she don't bring Khaled in the second book, I was like, when he met and he got drunk and came to her house that night, I said, book number 2, don't talk about him and this lady. I was so disappointed because it just felt like it should be about them. And I love, because you're always curious about the best friend, and I love that you did a guy and girl best friend, you know, and they both was very attractive, and everybody always wondered about their relationship and how everything started. But I love when you, like, they're Khaled and Jayla, like, I love how the 2 definitely different relationships, but they were so similar in so many ways.
Yeah, they fought some of the same battles of just getting over themselves. Like that's what it was on both ends, is people just having to get over themselves. And with like Jayla, I understood, her reservations of not only getting involved with a younger man, but also, somebody that you're trying to help, their career, and she's fresh out of divorce and all these other things. And so I totally understood her apprehension. But it was also like, girl, you better let this boy love you because he is like ready.
Exactly. I'm like, he is doing his thing in every aspect of this story. And I do have a sidebar for all your stories before I talk about one of my favorite ones. All of them are my favorite, but this one I messaged you about it. But before then, I do have a question, Quest. Where do you get all these sex scenes? Like, are you watching porn? Is this personal experience? No, I want to know because they are very graphic in details. And I'm like, wait, I'm gonna try this. Like, where did you get this from? Like, and I love too how you let the man lead. And most of it, the guy's always initiating. He always making sure she comes, and then a woman's like, you know what? He deserves this back. But it's refreshing to see that. Like, it's not the woman like, come on, I want you, even though they're stressed out or high, but the guy's always kind of like controlling and leading it in a point. But I was like, where is she? Like, I need to know, where's your imagination coming from? Is this personal experience? Is it Pornhub? I don't want to be plugging other people, but I'm curious.
And so it really goes back to what I said earlier about these storylines literally playing in my head like a movie. And so it's not that like porn is playing in my head, but it's like, this is just the natural progression of where they would go. And this is how they would, have these intimate moments, like based on their personalities. A lot of times this is how their intimate moments will go. And so it's what they give me, honestly. Like, it's not necessarily, oh, let me go on Pornhub and see what position they're trying to do over here. Like,
I would say it's great because they're not ratchet. It's not like, it's like you said, it's a progression. Like, the hand on the thigh, then he's kissing on the neck. It's not like, oh, then he's nibbling. It's so deep.
Do they do stuff like that on Pornhub?
I don't know. I don't know.
But it sounds like
personal experience or that, like that. I don't know, but it was just very not just the why are you pointing at me? Not just the kissing and stuff, but like, she's like, oh, my pearl and this and that, and he's doing this. I'm like, okay.
Well, another thing is like, we grown, right? And so we know what we would like, and we know how we would want to be handled. And so I guess some of that gets inserted as well.
It's so good, and it's done very tastefully, and I appreciate that. And I was telling all my girlfriends, I'm like, you need to read her books. I said, because like my sister, no, I'm not. I figure, how do I want to describe myself? Like, I don't like reading things. Like, I don't really swear like that. You know what I'm saying? So I like reading stuff, I feel like, for the mature audience. You know what I'm saying? Same to people who swear aren't mature. I'm not saying that. But, when you come to a certain place, like, I don't use certain vocabulary. So to read a book that is about Black people who love each other and done so tastefully, but still so relatable. You know, we all grew up in the hood. We all know, definitely our generation, you know, we all know struggle. So each character, even the basketball player to the bartender, like we know somebody like that, or we've been in those type of situations, you know what I'm saying? So to read these stories and it's done so tastefully, like I just love them. Even to the sex scenes, like it's so detailed, but you can really relate and feel like, no, he ain't just pulling her about, like, you know, even some do like that because they already were together.
Right.
Even the dialect, I love how you do the woman's point of view, the male's point of view, the woman's point of view, the male's point of view. And my question is, how do you get that male's point of view? Like,
you know,
like, how would you take this?
I mean, I have a brother. I have, you know, dads, uncles, cousins, you know, friends in my real life. Like I have all those things. And so I think as people, we don't realize just how much we're picking up on just from being around people. Absolutely. And so when I'm sitting down to write a male point of view, there's always, you know, in the back of my head, it's like, okay, does this really sound like a guy? Like, is this really something the guy would, or, you know, ways that guys would think, and really just not inserting myself as a woman on this person, like letting him be who he is. And so, you know, sometimes it can be challenging because, like I said, it's like, is this really what a guy would say, or is this like me trying to emulate a guy? But it's also fun for me to like deliver, you know, the opposite sex and like really try to get in the headspace of what that character would be talking about.
I think you do that very well because you also make them feel, you also show their vulnerability. And a lot of people want to look at a man always being hard. And most men are very vulnerable and sensitive.
You said hard.
Not hard. Not that. But like, you know, this must, like, you know, guys don't cry or they don't have feelings when we're all humans. But you don't dismasculate them. They're still masculine in how they handle it. And I was curious, like, this is so well written. So that's why I was curious. I read like 10 books in 5 days. I don't even know how I did that, but thank you, Jesus. They're very entertaining. My husband like, what you reading now? So let me tell you about this scene. He's like, oh my God. He's like, you really like these books. I'll tell you, let me tell you what this guy did to so-and-so. But it's just like, I like to, like, I watch TV, I like Hallmark. I'm a helpless little romantic. And it just feels like I'm playing the movie in my head and those people look like me. They're my girlfriends, you know what I'm saying? They're my sisters, you know what I'm saying? And it feels so good to see that, you know, it's not my story, but I can relate.
Right.
So I appreciate that coming from a Black woman who loves love and who's in love with my own man, but to see other people that you don't always really get to see, you know, because so many of my friends are still looking for love. So they're not my friends in real life, but they're my friends in my head, and your story is like, oh, they finally made it to the end.
Right. That's how I feel writing them too. It's like, yes, girl, you deserve. Like, I'm so happy you got
love.
No, that's always the goal. So to hear you express that is like, so it's just so filling me up right now, because that's always the goal when I sit down to write, is just to write, you know, relatable characters, relatable Black people falling in love, and like, you know, the highs and lows of that, sure, but at the end of the day, like it's still a beautiful experience. That's always what I want to come across. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Go ahead. I have more questions. I'm like, this is your show.
I know, but I'm just like, I felt like I should just do the intro and the outro. All in a day, but it's beautiful because I love how you guys keep saying it relatable, because the tag for the show is relatable, informative, yet entertaining. So I'm just gonna have my own little moment. But this is what you want when it comes to being an entrepreneur, being an author, being a business person, being a music artist. You want to hear from your fans and your readers and your consumers. You know, like with you, with your business as a travel agent, when they come back from their trips, you like to hear the great reviews, like, oh my gosh, we had such a wonderful time. Thank you so much for putting this together for us. But, you know, it's a beautiful feeling, you know, and just like you as an author, it's a beautiful feeling to know that your readers are connecting with the characters in your book. Absolutely. That means you're doing your job. You know, so I can see the glow in her face as a fan.
That's my melanin.
I know that's right.
You soak the milk and honey. Like, you know, and then you look at her like, wow, like the reason why she's smiling right now is because of something I did and something I created and stuff like that. Is so beautiful. And not to segue from what we're doing, but just like when it comes to the Black community in general, women coming together, connecting, vibing, being happy and being positive and motivating one another and supporting one another. Another thing that's not highlighted, especially mainstream, and that's why I try to take advantage of my platforms to do things like this. Like, look, 3 entrepreneurs, female, just happens to be Black at the same time, coming together, vibing together, connecting together, you know, and that's the way it should be. And things like this needs to be highlighted and not always put on the back burner, right? I want to segue a little bit before I forget. You said that you collaborated with another writer on books, correct? How was that process?
And so it was a lot of fun for sure. But it was different for me because from a creative standpoint, I'm not used to just working with other people. Like when I sit down to write a book, it's like I'm zoned in beginning to end. Like this is my baby. I don't have to think about anybody else. But, you know, collaborating with someone and, you know, having stories that are 2 separate stories, but interconnected in different ways. It was different to like have to share notes and like, you know, keeping pace with this, you know, story length and just all these different things. But the person that I was collaborating with, Nicole Falls, she's a great friend of mine. And so it was so much fun.
Write her name down.
I knew you was gonna write it down.
Absolutely. Nicole Falls, you definitely did check out her work. Her work is amazing. But yeah, because I feel like because it was a friend of mine already, it was seamless to be able to collaborate. And, you know, even with all these different things going on in comparison to me writing something by myself, it was beautiful to, you know, have somebody that kind of pushes you to want to create your best thing and to make sure you're keeping pace with somebody else's creativity.
So how does that work when you actually put it up on platforms like Amazon and Barnes and Noble? Does the book actually go under both your names? You both upload it, or how does that process work?
So we wrote 2 separate books for us, and so that I think the way that you're talking about, I don't feel like I could ever do that like that. That would just be too much for me to have to like literally write one thing with one person. That would be a lot for me. But because we wrote 2 separate books, they're both under our individual names, but they're linked together as a series. And so once you find one of them, you can find both of them. But they're specifically tied to our own catalogs.
Okay. And one more question before my co-host takes over again, as we're down to less than 20 minutes of the show. My question is, I hear your books are very lengthy, but how long does it actually take you to write these books?
So it depends. For like a novella length, which is like something less than 50,000 words or so, it'll take me like a month and a half. Something full length might take me 2.5 months. So it really just depends. But oftentimes, like I'll get so much into the story that it's just flowing. Like I don't have to, like it just in no time at all. It wraps up. But usually anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months, 2.5 months at max.
Okay, and one more question, and then you can take over again. I'm sorry. When it comes to you being an author, what are some other authors that you actually read and the stories that they write?
So I mentioned Nicole Falls. That's definitely somebody that I'm like one click buying on Amazon right away whenever she puts something out. Christina C. Jones is actually the author that I was talking about earlier that pushed me off the ladder to publish my own thing, and she has so she has over 50 books. I think she's like pushing 60 at this point, but her work is absolutely amazing. So I highly recommend her. And I get to read her stuff before she publishes. And so that's like a friend privilege of mine to be able to see just the magic that, because it's magic. That's what I can say about her work. It's absolute magic. Alexandra, how she mentioned, I absolutely love her work. The McLean brothers, like everything she does is just wonderful. Love Belvin. She has these just masterfully deep stories that have like some spirituality tied in, but it's not like Love Belvin.
Love Belvin.
Yes. And her books, you think my books are long. Her books are long, honey, but you will fly through them because they are so they're just so intensely good. D Rose, she's a newer author. she writes kind of the same kind of fresh millennial Black love, young, typically like more new adult age characters. I don't think you really see anybody over 30. But her books are absolutely fresh and just fun and just kind of that same just youthful energy, but just, beautiful Black people falling in love, beautiful Black people doing everyday things and, happening on love. So yeah. Oh, Phyllis Bourne, that's another one that she writes romantic comedies that are just like gut busting funny. Like
Break it down with it's right up my alley.
I'm gonna message her and say, "Can you send me this list?"
Yeah, I mean, can you actually write this down so we can have it?
I sure will. I absolutely will. Because Phyllis Bourne, she is like she's like a hilarious person in real life, and so when you read her books, it's like this. No wonder these books are so funny because you are just a funny, just wonderful human being, and so those are the people that I'm always picking up once they drop something.
That's great.
So I could go all day.
I know, but that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing because it's just showing yet again that you support your fellow Black female authors. And not just because it's the color of their skin or their gender, just because they actually put out great quality work. If you love great products, then people will be your consumers. But I'm going to I can see if she got so much in her head. I can see it now. Thing for the next 5 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna come back with the fun part to wrap up the show.
Yes, I'm not gonna stay on long. I know we are on a time limit, but my next question is: I already messaged you about this. Your book, Love Building 402 series. All of those characters. I was like, I need to be in this building. Like these people. They are so, oh my God, they are so funny to me. Like, and I love that they all live in the same place. When do you think that next book is coming out? This year? You said it takes you a month or two.
You did. You caught that, didn't you? Huh? No, it's really a matter of just like I said, I can't force write anything. And so when I sat down to initially work on that final book of that series, it felt like I was really forcing it. And when I try to force stuff, it doesn't read well. And so I had to take a step back from it. And I'll come back to it a little bit and I'll step back again. I'll come back into a little bit. And so hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be able to wrap up that series completely. But I love that building. I wish I could live there.
My thing is, when you write these books, do you automatically think of them as series, or do they start as one book and then you just end up making it into a series?
So it varies. So like with that Building 402, I knew that was going to be a series, just because I had all these different scenarios that I wanted to happen. But like the games we play, I didn't know that the lessons we learned, I didn't know that was going to be a spinoff until I meet this character who just seemed so deserving of their own story. And so like Khaled, he was just deserving of his own story. And so I was able to work that in and then write the spinoff for that.
Yeah, so let's go with the abilities play because Larson, aka Law, him having a twin. I'm like, okay, too fine, brother. Those scenarios, this was good. I loved Nick and Monte. Their story, I was like, what the heck? Come on. Like, because I love that. But the funny part about it, I don't know if I read it somewhere else, if I saw a movie, and it was like two best friends, a guy and a girl. You know who it was? Alexandra House books. It just clicked to me. One of her books. It's like they wasn't. I hope it's her or your Christina C. James, but I think it's Alexandra House. Could be one of them. Because I've been reading all you guys like back to back. Please don't let me get nobody character mixed up. But one of those stories were like best friends, but they never was single at the same time. And then this book was kind of like that, with everything that was happening. I was like, come on, guys, you guys know you love each other. Like, you've been in love forever, but neither one of them was brave to tell the other person because their friendship was so tight.
Right.
It was like, sometimes best friends need to just be lovers because they knew like he knew she was upset. Anything, she got to lie to him. It was like, y'all know so much about each other that your love has to work.
Right. And they're just scared to take that next step and, not be able to go back to what it was if anything were to go wrong. And so again, that's like one of those things, like, it's like, I get it, but like, y'all are in love. Like, y'all need to stop playing.
It wasn't so much like everybody saw it except for them. And then the first book with AJ and Eve, how you started it off, girl. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, she knew the playlist. He banged behind her head. Then he knocked on her door. I'm like, look at this hot mess, AJ. And she knew, oh my God. But I loved how Eve brought out the grown man in him. And I tell people all the time, just because you 30, 40 don't mean you grown. You still be a little boy.
Right.
But when his mom was like, I hope you don't end up like your dad, like playing all these games. And then when you finally find somebody, she ain't going to take you seriously. And he wanted her, so he had to really like show her.
Yes.
I love that whole thing. And now he kind of like, he was seeing like that whole building.
Like, everybody had a little something going on. Everybody.
Oh my God. They were just, that building was something else. But I love everybody's different issues and how they all was yin and yang and not realizing it. Even with Law and Angie, you know what I'm saying? She thought she was
completely different world.
But this was the guy who was literally made for you.
Right.
Excellent work. Excellent work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Besides, not giving me more.
You're gonna keep throwing that in your face.
I mean, more is coming. That means something, right?
I'm saying, give me your epilogues. I still be wanting to know more. I'm like, wait, hold on. When they having a baby? Like, we gonna have a wedding? Like, I don't want to just hear "I love you" from Kala, and I want more. Like, I be wanting.
Well, that's the beauty of it for me, because it's like I wrote a story that had you so invested that you care about these people beyond what you didn't even see, and so I take that as a compliment. I really do.
It is. You can always come back, like you said. You can always bring them back to life, and I'll be right here, like, yes.
You'll be ready this time. You'll be like, I remember them now. I know who these people are.
I really want to say I appreciate your work. Even now, like I'm telling people, read more. Like, definitely, like I said earlier, I just want to say this again with the Black community, with everything that's going on. If they would just demonstrate more real love in our own community, like mothers and fathers, you know what I'm saying, and real love. I don't care, like even with the book where she who had the baby, Tani, what's her name, Tina. What's the girl's name who has the baby who got with Mac's brother, Kevin?
Oh, Tiana.
Yeah, I heard it was coming. It's coming. But you see, like, her whole situation, you know what I'm saying? But you still saw, like, you saw past it. Love. It's all about being vulnerable enough to love somebody. And all your books shows all different type of dimension, like single motherhood, someone who just got divorced, everywhere you can think of, you show that in your stories, and they're just really well done. And I really think and believe that this is a time that we need more of that, if it's in a book or anything. So I just really appreciate you, because during all this crazy stuff in life, those has been my escape. I usually it's karaoke, but sometimes I can be singing 10 o'clock when kids are sleeping. So your books have really been a real escape for me. And I just love, and just keep doing what you're doing. Because, I'll be like, hey, what's the next book? I'm on it.
Oh, I appreciate it. I really do. Like I said, it's been a weird time creatively, just because, with everything going on, and then just not, having the usual inspirations that we usually have, since the world is pretty much shut down. And so to hear stuff like that, like I said, it's really just filling me up. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your show.
It sounds like we may have to have a part 2.
Hey, I'm about to read more books. So
I know. And I must say that I am beyond sold. So I guess it's time for me to catch up, for you to be the next author in my repertoire of people to follow and get to know all these characters too, so I can be in the conversation too.
Yes.
I am sold. And before we wrap this up, my question for you is, outside of just doing the books, you ever consider doing like audiobooks? Because I'm a voiceover specialist, and that's just in our realm of things. So I always ask every author, they ever consider doing audiobooks?
And so I have 2 audiobooks available right now. I actually worked with the production company that reached out to me about turning my books into audiobooks.
Nice.
And so I have 2 available, the games we play and the lessons we learned, which we talked about earlier. And then I have 2 more that are in production right now. My most recent release, Oops, and then an older one called Wins and Losses. And so slowly but surely, it's I have a lot of books, and so transforming my catalog into audio is a project. But I definitely would love to see more stuff in audio.
How many voices do you use for it?
2 for each one.
Okay, so it's like a guy and a girl, and then okay. Now, before you actually got into doing the audiobooks for your books, did you actually listen to audiobooks?
I didn't, and so that's why when the company reached out to me, it didn't even cross my it wasn't something that necessarily crossed my mind because I wasn't naturally an audiobook consumer. But I see the way people really get into them in ways that people, they might not have time to sit down and actually read a physical book, but they can listen to a book, in the car or while they're cleaning up the house or doing all these different things. And so it's definitely a market that we need to push more of our stories in, because there's definitely people that are looking for it, and we're looking for more voices. So like you said, if voices is your thing, yes ma'am, we need more Black narrators. So
I won't listen to you though. I'm the old-fashioned reader. I like a book. I just got into the Kindle because I read so fast. So I travel, I'm traveling next week still, even though epidemic, keep me in your prayers, everybody. Absolutely. But that's the most I would do is a Kindle, or I have a book. I can't, I will be so distracted that, but Quest has a great voice because she does all my commercials. I love them, and then I get so much rating, so I totally get it. And that is a new wave because I work at the library part-time because I love books so much, so it just was a great fitting. And everybody really is getting into more of the audiobooks and the ebooks, so that's really smart to do that.
Absolutely. So it's down to the last minute. This is your opportunity to tell the whole world who may not know who you are, what you're about, and where to find your books.
All right. So again, my name is Alexandra Warren. I am a Black romance author specializing in fresh, flirty, and fun Black millennial romance stories. You can find my work on Amazon or request it at your library because they can absolutely get them there. You can find me online. My website is actuallyalexandra.com. And then from there, you can find all my social media at actuallyalexandra on Instagram, _actually Alex on Twitter, and then author Alexandra W on Facebook.
Okay. And just to do a little plug and segue, every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, I do an adult trivia game. Well, it's supposed to be trivia, but every time I speak to people, I end up turning into a therapist. So it turns more into a conversation. But I'm gonna tell you about that more off the air. But final words, Whitney from Whitney Escapes.
Hey guys, this is your girl Whitney from Whitney's Escapes, your #1 travel agent. And yes, I do own my own travel agency, but I am also still an agent. So please follow me on all your social media platforms at Whitney's Escapes. Check out my website, Whitney's Escapes, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Whitney's Escapes LLC. So if you see Whitney's Escapes and see this face, it's me. So please support, and also please support my girl Alexandra Warren. Her books are amazing. If you need that escape, since we can't like we want to, you can escape within one of her books.
Okay. Final question. Alexandra, if you was going on vacation right now, where would you go?
Anywhere I could go safely.
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Okay. Anywhere I could go safely.
Okay, so congratulations going to the living room and the kitchen and the bathroom and in the basement, attic, and maybe
I am getting my house passport stamps all the way up. I've been all around.
So if the pandemic wasn't happening, where would you go?
Somewhere in the Caribbean. I've never been to the Caribbean. I don't know why. But I know.
You better follow me. If you're not following me, follow me, because I do girls right now in September. We're going to Turks and Caicos. I always do a group of girls, which will be fun. And then I have an idea for you. I'm gonna tell you off the air. I have an idea.
Okay.
Once again, I want to thank Alexandra for being on the TQuest show and Whitney Escapes for being my co-host. You know what? I kind of like sitting back a little bit and allowing somebody to do a little something. Take a break because you guys know your girl TQuest. I talk 24/7. Sometimes I feel like I talk in my sleep. But yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show, ladies. And you guys know it's your girl TQuest, your favorite blogger, podcaster, music artist, DJ, party host, voiceover specialist, and then some. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at TQuestGLM. Download the TQuest mobile app in your Google Play Store and your App Store. Make sure you sign up for my mailing list on my website, gottalovemeworld.com. And if you need any of my services, and I'm in any of my services, all you got to do is hit up my email, TQuestGLM@gmail.com. Once again, it's your girl TQuest. You are tuned into the TQuest show. Relatable, informative, and yet entertaining. Tell a friend, because that's just the smart thing to do. Over and out. All right.